Sure. All right. So we're live. Welcome to our Wednesday live show. Today we're gonna have two guests today. Alex is here with us right now from CASAA. Hello, Alex.
Hi.
Hi, Alex.
And you guys know the rest of the guys: Tom Harding, Brian, and Tim Swift down there. Hello, guys.
I'm glad you clarified exactly which Tom we're talking to.
Yeah.
I got the names right this week. Tom Harding, Tim Swift, and Brian Powers. I got you guys' names. Hey, I'm old. I'm allowed to make mistakes. I have senior moments. So
We know this every Wednesday.
there, Alex, I've never started a show where I didn't make at least 2 or 3 mistakes.
Our show is one constant blooper reel.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, here's Kristin. Kristin's here. Hello, Kristin.
Hi.
Hi. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys tell us what you guys do with CASAA so everybody can get an idea what you guys are doing. We could start with you, Kristin.
Starting from the beginning or what I do now?
What you do now for CASAA.
Well, right now I am the member coordinator, and that is, I don't know, what would you call that, Alex? Just about everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Slash.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, it started out as we were going to try to do chapters, like different state chapters across the country, and unfortunately we just had a hard time getting, if anybody's ever tried to start a organization, they understand that it's hard to get people involved. Everybody's like, yeah, we need an organization, and then when you say, yeah, come help, and it's, where did everybody go?
Yeah.
So we tried to do a couple chapters. We had one that was started in Kansas City, and it just, people just kind of disappeared. So my role ended up, I started doing things like creating the Facebook state Facebook pages, or groups, I guess you'd call them, all of our state pages. Now I do all the tweets that you see, most of the Facebook posts. I'm on ECF. I do what else do I do? I'm trying to think of everything else. // pretty much. Whatever Alex needs me to do. I've helped him with legislative stuff, finding things, making lists, keeping up the state pages.
And you are the representative for this for Wisconsin, correct? Or everything?
Well, we don't really have state reps, so
okay.
I'm the member coordinator for national.
National,
and then
okay.
I just happen to live in Wisconsin, so I'm a little more active here, basically.
Okay, awesome.
Best state ever.
Okay. Settle down, Tom. Settle down. Don't want to piss off the rest. And Alex, give us.
Yeah. So first of all, I haven't seen Kristin's live face since Milwaukee.
Yeah, since the premiere of the movie.
Live premiere. Yeah.
Oh, so wow.
We talk frequently, but it's still, we don't do the video. It's kind of interesting to see everybody getting on Zoom, and we've been working remotely for the entire time. So it's great to see you, Kristin, and in real life. So
I get to see your mug all the time. So
yeah, I'm all over the place because I have to be. So better
you than me.
Yeah. So, and which is one of the reasons why they, brought me into this whole mess, was because I speak like I do, and I could, represent the organization in a good way. I was going to say professional, but this is all on the job training for a lot of us. So, but yeah, so I am the CEO of CASAA. I started out as basically filling in as much as I could Gregory Conley's shoes as legislative director back in 2014, and that has transitioned into a paid position. CASAA needed a full-time legislative person, and I still pretty much wear that hat most of the time. We're tracking legislation, definitely at the state and federal level, at the local level as much as we can. I've certainly noted how difficult that is and how expensive it can be if you want to do it, if you want to catch everything. But yeah, tracking the legislation and putting up all of our calls to action. And now, there's a little bit more of me, I think, facing the members. We've been doing the Facebook Lives for the fundraiser that we did last week, but that's another thing that we have not done consistently. So that you might see more of that. And then, I've really enjoyed over the past 6 years working pretty closely with Julie Wessner. I would go as far as to say she's been a bit of a mentor for me, a writing partner.
All of us.
Yeah, a mentor to all of us. But Julie has had a big role in helping me improve my writing skills. And so, the comments.
Can she help me? Can she help me as well?
Maybe. I don't have enough patience for you.
Hopeless.
That's something else that I do.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun working with Kristin and Julie and Danielle is a recent kind of star in our organization. And
God bless her.
it's all about representing the consumer voice as accurately and as genuinely as we can. I mean, we all came to this as consumers.
Yeah.
And that's part of the story that, this organization was founded from within the community. And you said EC, I don't know how many of your viewers are new or old and don't know what Electronic Cigarette Forum is, but Kristin has an excellent post that traces back the origins of CASAA to a thread on ECF. So if you want to see the old history of CASAA, you can check out Kristin's post and see how the organization was formed.
If you have that link, you can post it in the chat there, Kristin, if you have it on
I'm trying
hand.
to see where is the chat. I don't even know where chat is.
It should be on the right hand side.
Are you you're on your laptop?
Yeah, I'm on my laptop.
It'll be on the right side of your screen.
Under comment. If you hit comments, it should show the comments from the group and also from YouTube, because there's a bunch of people saying hello to you on YouTube.
Oh, jeez. I'm sorry, you guys. Hold on. Let's see. Well, I think I'm on SteamYard still. So where do I?
Yeah, it's in the SteamYard. It'll be on the
hit
top.
live comments.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Oh, hi, you guys. I see you now. Oops. I'm just sitting here, Let me see here. And then where do you put a comment in?
Down in the bottom.
Do I have to log in to comment?
You know what? I don't even have the ability
at?
to leave a comment. You'd have to do it on one of the lives, like either directly on the Box group or YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, there's your first blunder of the night.
You can drop it.
I'm gonna promise that I'm not gonna use my sound effects tonight. No sound effects. But go ahead and continue, Alex. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was trying to wrap it up there because I was veering way off. I do. But I travel to events and we show up at FDA when we can, if they have a sort of one of those public listening or comment sections, or they have the listening sessions. That's what I was getting at. We haven't done one of those in a while, but we've gone to comment on the modified risk tobacco product applications from Swedish Match, Camel Snus, Copenhagen, and IQOS. We all showed up to support those applications as well. So when we're not all hunkered down trying to stay away from a disease, there's a fair amount of travel involved, and it's representing the organization, representing consumers, and trying to be a CEO.
You guys, any questions, you guys, before I start? I'll let you guys start.
I have to look up my questions now.
Tom, you're not.
Way to put me on the spot, John.
Come on, Tommy boy. I don't want to take over the show. You know me. I am Italian and I do like to talk, but I'm going to give you guys an opportunity tonight to talk.
I have no idea. Alex, I don't remember what post that was. Was it the 5-year journey post?
All I
on my
know,
blog.
it was on your blog. Yeah, it might have been. It might
Well,
have
my blog is
trees.
my blog is WI Vapors, as for Wisconsin Vapors,
Okay.
.blogspot.com. And I believe it's the 5-year journey post, a 5-year journey from 2014 that I
okay.
may have. I've got a few posts on there that, you know, that's the other thing I do. I do a lot of writing for CASAA too when they let me.
Let her write. Let her write, Alex.
You write like just about every day.
That's true. That's true.
We have to go through this, like, do we want to pile more things on Kristin kind of analysis? So
yeah.
if you're ever feeling underworked, I mean,
Yeah. Alex will throw some stuff your way.
Well, now Julie's throwing stuff my way too. So.
Where do you see CASAA going in the future?
Man, it's going to be difficult, and this past week, and I hope that people, I hope the message is resonating with people that this gets worse before it gets better. I mean, it's not even better. We're talking about salvaging, the threads of what most of us, the folks involved in the community, what we recognize as the vaping community. Which I am including, the small independent businesses that are running vape shops, the mom and pop vape shops, even some of the larger e-liquid companies, some of who may be able to submit a PMTA.
Right.
But that the look and feel and the function of that, the retail experience, the community experience, all of that is changing. And unfortunately, New York and Massachusetts are a good example of what we can expect in the future.
Right.
A limited amount of product sold in convenience stores, smoke shops. I know at least one shop owner where I live is having to completely change his business model, and he'll be reopening as a head shop. Because
wow.
He's not.
Yeah.
I don't know how you run a vape shop just selling tobacco flavors.
Yeah.
And I know people have tried. Before the shutdowns, I went out to Tacoma, Washington, to visit the Vaporium, and Kim was just selling tobacco flavors, and that store was closing because she couldn't maintain the sales or pay rent.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the future is vapor products being sold out of the trunk of a car, and or in Twitter DMs, just like people sell drugs. I mean, it's going to be tough, but the future for us is fighting back.
Yeah.
And New York is an excellent example. We have bad laws here that need to be changed. And at some point, this comes down to, I think, it'll mainly be an industry FDA conversation about working out huge kinks in the PMTA process. And I think a lot of the open system side, the independent industry side of the community are probably going to have to, shoulder most of that work. If you're a company and you get through PMTA, I can't see any motivation for making that process easier. Yeah. Unless you're talking about bringing an updated version of your product. So, for example, IQOS, what we're getting in the States here is generation 1.
Yeah.
Japan is already up to 4, maybe 5. It could take another decade before we see a new IQOS coming out of Altria in the United States. So we knew this in 2016 when the regulations were finalized. All of the innovation, the rapid innovation that was really driving a lot of consumer interest in the industry was, stopped. So, more of that, just all underground stuff. It's still shocking to me.
Yeah.
That, having this national conversation about daylighting cannabis and other drugs, and here we are dealing with a de facto prohibition on what we know is the industry and the community right now, and really just exposing people to way more risk than is appropriate, and creating creating a new crime. You're a vape dealer.
Yeah, we were joking about the normal person walking along the sidewalk and hearing that conversation with someone walking up to somebody and saying, "Do you got grape? Do you got grape? You got
any of that mango?
You got a mango? Any mango flavors?" Yeah, we are going to talk about Bill 1253. We'll get to that one. That one's but I wanted to also talk about what's going on in California. I mean, I'm sure you guys have been seeing who was that?
It was Kristin.
Oh,
sorry.
I was like,
mute when I do that. I should mute when I do that.
I thought
about it after I did it.
I thought I was at LaGuardia waiting for a plane to land.
I'm sorry. I'll make sure I hit mute next time I do that.
Yeah.
Well, it's a show about vaping by vapors, so it's kind of expected.
We do it all the time. But
I don't have the fancy mic, so it's like right by my mouth. When
yeah.
We have a question from chat from our favorite questioner, Madison.
Yeah, Madison. Oh, I see it.
Yeah, you want to put that up?
Yeah, I got it up.
There you go.
COVID-19 has been seen more hidden in legislation under COVID-19 measurements.
So I don't know. We haven't seen more. In fact, since legislatures started shutting down in March, everything got put on pause, and now they're all overwhelmed with a response to the coronavirus. But there are still those, bills that are out there. California has the flavor ban bill, SB 793.
793, that's the number.
We did see a ballot initiative in Colorado go through. It's complicated. Our lack of engagement on that, and I'm not going to get into it, but
yeah,
it very well be silly. There's no weird explanation here. It just didn't happen. But that did creep up. All of a sudden, here we're dealing with this ballot initiative that was going through the process pre-COVID-19, and then when the legislature came back in session to pass a bunch of bills, it got rushed through that as well. And so we're seeing a bit of that makes it complicated. We were tracking bills from the first part of the session in 2019. Now we've had this big breakup. I mean, everybody's lives have been upended because of this. And so it's difficult to get back in and find out which, tracking the legislature coming back online. Some are coming back in session for it was a southern state. I want to say it was Alabama or something. It doesn't matter. They came back in session for a week to get everything sorted, finish out their last days, and get back to doing coronavirus stuff. So it's been challenging. The only, arguably the one place where something feels like it was just kind of slid in under the radar was New York. And we were talking about this before we came on the air. The flavor ban portion of the state budget there were no committee hearings, there was no debate, there was no nothing. It was shoved into a must-pass piece of legislation. And in order to vote against it, lawmakers had to drive to Albany, and which I think at the most it's 4 hours away from the furthest place away. We're talking Buffalo or something. But still, you had to travel the pandemic in order to say no. And, there were some fiery speeches in opposition to other parts of the bill that we were in. I mean, there was yelling on the floor in Albany, and did not get any coverage that happened between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. So
what I find weird about that, with all the technology we have today, that you'd have to be there. You know what I'm saying? With the internet and all the camera, the amazing camera equipment, and we got C-SPAN is live. Everything else could be live, but you have to be there for that vote. It was just ridiculous to me.
I mean, I get it, right? There's some physical infrastructure that has to be built in order to do remote legislature stuff. Yeah. And I mean, I swear to God, for the amount of taxes we pay in New York, that system installed already. I mean, the whole Capitol building should be wired for sound, and I could just pick and choose rooms to listen in on. But no, they are light years behind where they should be.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I had to comment on any part of that, I would have said, if we're one of the examples or set a precedent for some, legislation moving forward, it'd be nice if at least some legislation could be passed that, in the event of some strange world pandemic like now, that, that legislators or those processes should be put on hold given the circumstance, right? Because you're trying to get through it. You're in a situation where people can't even go to get in unemployment career centers to deal with things like unemployment. They're trying to deal with it over the phone, and you can't get through to anything but an answering machine. I just think it's really unfair that they give you a vehicle to oppose it, but they make it in such the most complicated way to try to do it that you almost have to throw your hands up. Like, I how am I going to fight this? There's no way I can fight it. So they need to level the playing field a little bit, I think, in those instances.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad to say, but both ends of the political spectrum benefit from not having a lot of engagement from voters. They can get all kinds of things passed. So.
Yeah. I mean, especially it's a budget bill. It's a pretty huge bill. It's not like it's, you can't use this any longer. It's a freaking budget bill. I mean, and there's a pandemic. So why can't they just, open your laptop up, go to a Zoom room, whatever. We're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Brian, you have any questions for the panel? I know you always do.
Yeah. So it's a very strange question, but how are you guys able to watch continuously all the states and to really understand what's going to be coming up or whatnot with the people that you have?
So within CASAA,
is it easy, difficult type thing?
Oh, it's difficult. Yeah. And I mean, my first response is it's impossible to watch.
It's impossible.
We do subscribe to a platform that does legislative tracking for us. And so, set up the search terms whenever a new bill is introduced. I get an alert and I start tracking it and get alerts as it moves through the process, which again is not, that little explanation that, Schoolhouse Rock and the little, some states have a diagram showing, the legislative process. But it doesn't always play out like that. When things kind of move behind closed doors, are in subcommittees or executive committees, the public doesn't necessarily see all that stuff. You don't know what's going on unless you have a lobbyist on the issue. I guess you have the time in the day to continually call and harass committee members or something. I'm not quite sure how all of that works. It's a bit of magic to me, but it's a combination. We have that platform that we use. We have people that we're talking to, almost constantly that are handing us information about the progress of a bill or who's for this and against it. It's very important to, try to understand. This is something that we haven't done very well or really had the resources to do it, is set up kind of, whip boards by state or, in the federal government. And a whip board, for those who don't know, that's figuring out, kind of the range of support for a particular bill. You've got opposed, you've got maybe kind of opposed, then you've got the on the fence people support. It's the on the fence people that we want to be able to target with messages and get them more in the opposition side of a lot of the stuff we're seeing. But that's also, you're talking about thousands of lawmakers across the country, so it's kind of difficult.
It's difficult. The thing is I mean, do you feel that a lot of my question is kind of a weird one, but do you feel that a lot of the vape shops are giving their customers your guys' information? Do you feel that that's being? I see the smile on your face.
Well, I'm smiling at.
But do you feel that information? Do you feel that information is being shared at a majority of the vape shops?
Well, just to go back a little bit,
Yeah.
to the other question,
Yeah,
for the stuff that the platforms we have really are only on a state and national level. If somebody in Peoria is going to ban flavors, the only way we can find out about that is one of two ways: is I get a Google alert, which I check. I've got multiple Google alerts set up to find stuff across the country, and that's when you see a heads up post from me, or CASAA, I should say, and or somebody telling us, somebody living, one of our members living in Peoria, need to tell us. And that's one thing they don't understand is people are like, well, why didn't CASAA tell us about that? It's like, because we didn't know. There's no way for us to follow every township, every city. There's just not a platform for that. So that's why I'm always saying, you are CASAA. When you join us, you're part of this group to help get the word out, and to help us get the word out. So you need to tell us that you saw this notice, and you need to keep paying attention in your area and your little poster boards, and especially things like, I would have tobacco, vape, e-cigarette, all those things would be things you'd want to have a search for, so that, because a lot of times, say, vaping things for like an indoor ban or whatever are tucked in under tobacco. You wouldn't even know it was there. That's how I find a lot of this stuff, as I see something about tobacco, I'm like, wait, vapors in there too. So that's why we want people to join these Facebook groups and to join CASAA and communicate. Communicate with us even on Twitter. If you're not a Facebooker, we're on Twitter. If you see something, tell us about it, because in that situation with a small town in some state, we need to hear from you just as much as you need to hear from us.
And
then as far as go ahead.
No, I just wanted to dovetail on that, how valuable it is. I found out about something happening in my town. I live in Plattsburgh, New York, and it was, I think, one of your afternoon posts. I think you posted maybe somewhere between noon and 2 o'clock, and it had this article about Plattsburgh expanding their outdoor smoking ban to include vaping. It was going to be a $250 fine if you were caught possessing any tobacco product, and it was for anybody. It wasn't just 21 and under. It was anybody caught possessing tobacco products or vapor products on city-owned property. You would have gotten a $250 fine. And so, because of Kristin's monitoring, I got the heads up alert. I was able to dress up nice and book it down to City Hall, and we ended up getting the ordinance changed. Didn't defeat it, but the fine was reduced to $100. There was the age limit on, I think they took the possession out of it. So it dialed it back. It's still $100 is $100. I mean, that's groceries for people.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
But all of that to say, the work that CASAA that Kristin is doing for CASAA was, at least I almost immediately experienced how valuable it was.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, it's really important to know what your city council's doing. I know everyone's just like, I don't have time for that, but it's just unbelievable the amount of people that come up to me, like where I live in Modesto, and say, I can't believe this passed. I go, what do you mean you can't believe it? That was they were talking about that 2 months ago. Where were you then? And it's the same thing here. Pay attention to what your city council is planning on doing in your city, and then inform CASAA, especially if it's something to do with vaping, or even, like you said, even smoking now, because we're in that group. So if it's something that's about tobacco, it's going to be about vaping as well in your community. So It's really
and then they'll be upset because CASAA didn't show up. And I'm like, you're CASAA. You are CASAA.
I mean, it's like,
people need to understand that. CASAA is not Alex or me or the board of directors. Our whole purpose is to get information out there. And when you join, you're becoming a part of this, and that's why we need your eyes and ears. People ask all the time, I've got time, what can I do? Go down to your city hall, go down, pay attention to what's going on in your state, be that person who's watching things, because I've got 50 states, and then we added Puerto Rico. It's not easy to cover that all the time.
There's a question right there from somebody from YouTube. Would it be useful to have something on the site that tracks what CASAA is tracking even before it's time for the call to action?
No! You don't have enough for me to do.
You got a new job.
I have some background on this. So when I first got started and we had the legislative tracking, I think 2015 might have been the first year we subscribed to Legiscan, and I went through all the bills that had been introduced at the beginning of the year, and I wrote up this huge legislative digest kind of email that I sent out to everybody. I got a lot of really good feedback from it. People were really pleased with all the information, and I will tell you that took quite a bit of work. And I was younger then. I was one of those new employees that comes in. Go. And then 2 months later, you're like, oh my God, this job sucks. Why am I still mopping the floor? So that was really, I think, one of maybe 2 times that I put something out like that. But we have sort of seen over the years that at the beginning of session, people are tracking stuff independently. I mean, Legiscan is free. You can sign up and track your state. You just have to figure out all the search terms to, get the bills that you want to read. I mean, we have professionals doing it for us, and I still get I get all the cannabis bills, but other things like smoke detectors and fireworks, they fall in there too. So you still have to weed through this stuff. It's tremendously helpful to have a platform that does a lot of that for you. But the one thing that we found was people will find a bill that gets introduced in January, or even you have the sort of pre-introduction, there's a term for it, and it's escaping me right now, but you can file bills early in some states. And so folks will find those bills, and they look horrible. They're awful.
Rough drafts, yeah.
But we're talking months away from anything happening. So you can start tracking a piece of legislation at the beginning of session, and within a few months, maybe you've gotten a couple of committee hearings, maybe it's just sort of languished in committee somewhere. And depending on what happens, first of all, if you start posting up all of the legislation that gets introduced, I think this session, so starting in 2019, I think I was tracking over 350 pieces of legislation.
Something like that.
Might have even been double that. So the point is that it's not very useful, and ultimately it sort of just ends up scaring the hell out of people. And so you get a bunch of people that panic, and they will start coming to us, be like, why aren't you doing anything about this? And in some cases we've had to respond with well, the session hasn't even started yet, and this is just, this is essentially,
or it's over, or it's got to go through committees, and it's go from one place to the next place. Or we also talk to other. We work very closely with advocacy groups in different states, and sometimes they'll tell us, I'll bug Alex, and I'm like, I feel bad because I'm like, why didn't you do something? Well, I've been talking to so-and-so over there, and they've got a handle on it, and they want us to hold off. Oh, okay. But I've got the people bugging me, so he understands.
Yeah, Madison, you're right, because I think California has that as well. You can actually you can get alerts to certain bills if you go to their state sites. Yeah.
Wisconsin's got that too. I'm on alerts for Wisconsin. I put in keywords for tobacco, e-cigarette, vapor.
That's a great way to keep track of it too.
And I think Madison is raising an excellent point here, which is get familiar with your government websites, with your state website, with your city website. I will tell you that they vary in quality from state to state and town to town. But it's good to get dialed in on that. And more governments are using social media as their sort of public posting or part of their public posting in probably the most corrupt places or the least technologically advanced communities. That public notification is satisfied by a flyer tacked onto a bulletin board in City Hall.
We have a question from Facebook. Is CASAA being supported by some of the large vaping companies? And if so, which ones are helping the most?
That's from Robert.
Yes.
So thank you. And we have maintained a policy of not disclosing our donors, which is something that is likely to change in the future. I can tell you that, everybody probably knows Naked 100 has donated to us a couple years in a row, very big donations, very helpful. And some of the other companies, again, I'm not going to go through the whole list until we fix or change our policy. And part of the reason for that change is we understand that people like to have that public acknowledgement. It's just when it comes to the industry, we've maintained, first of all, this separation. Yes, we accept donations from the companies, but that's with the understanding that we're advocating for consumer access. And a lot of times that might not fit with what your lobbyist is telling you to do, or the policies that are actually going to, you've reached some compromise and are able to stay in business. So that's why that difference is there. But, we don't talk about the individual companies that donate to us because we don't want to put ourselves in a position where we've become basically a marketing tool.
Right.
But yes, I will say that some of the larger companies have donated and have been supporting us. And the reason for our fundraiser and we're having to up our fundraising efforts is because all of those companies are now being significantly challenged by the regulations, by COVID-19, by state and local laws. And so they've had to, I think, keep some of their financial resources so that they can weather the storm.
Excellent.
And I think too, we as fellow vapors know that, and most of us are, not all of us, but most of us are fellow vapors in CASAA. We understand that, I don't know what the number is, maybe 99.8% of vape shops and vape companies the owners are vapors. And we know that. And so we see you as consumers too. But if we put a big list on our website of all these companies that support us, suddenly, they're just an industry shell.
Yeah. Right.
And then all of a sudden our voice isn't taken as seriously in some ways. So we've been very careful with that.
Yeah. We got, let's see here. You guys want to talk a little? Someone's.
Hi, Bruce.
We wanted to talk a little bit about Bill 1253 and the call to action. So I kind of want to put that up there on the page here. Let me see if I can share that because that's kind of the important one right now. Now, is it true, the rumors that I've heard that some of the other big boys are deciding if this law were to pass that they also will stop selling or will also stop shipping vaping products? Have you guys heard that? Like FedEx and
it's a possibility. Yes, it depends
anyone's
on
guess.
How complicated it gets from them. I use Swedish snus. So I get my packages shipped via UPS. I've never had a problem with it. The biggest concern is, what customs is going to do to your package. But vapors are, familiar with that. So UPS has been really reliable. It's shipped internationally, so it's like $32 for shipping. So you have to kind of order in bulk, but not domestically. That's different. I think the charge for signature on delivery for UPS is like anywhere from $5 to $7, and that includes FedEx for domestic stuff. But I know that Julie has brought up this example quite a bit. I think that might be one of the real challenges with cigarettes is that technically you could still do it. It's just such a pain in the ass. None of the companies want to mess with it.
Yeah. Well,
it's actually not illegal to mail cigarettes, but there's just so many hoops you have to jump through to do it.
Well, I know if you were to go to the post office right now and say I was going to send Tom some e-juice and I told him there was e-juice in there, they wouldn't let me send it to him. That's what my post office has done to me. They're like, well, was this a liquid? And I, by accident, said, oh, yeah, it's e-juice. Well, does it have tobacco? It's a tobacco product. You're not allowed to send it I was like, huh? What? I go, well, how about if it's zero nicotine? She goes, well, you can't ship e-juice. So I always say, no, it's nothing of your business. I'm just sending it to whoever. But that's happened to me twice where I actually accidentally not paying attention and said, oh yeah, it's e-liquid. And they're like, you cannot ship e-liquid to another state.
Why are you going to the post office? Why don't you just schedule the pickup from your house and you don't have to talk to anybody?
Because I like to go outside, Tim, and get air.
He's old. He likes that fresh air.
I gotta walk outside your front door. Like you get maybe 10 seconds worth of sunlight, but I mean, you made it out to the front door.
I like seeing people, Tim. I want to see people.
Like I'm just here to help, not to hinder. Okay.
Anybody more some questions? Anybody on the panel?
I want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to address Shannon.
I do.
I'll go ahead, Chris.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Who's going?
Chris, go ahead.
Okay. Well, Shannon said something earlier in the comments about having a whole spreadsheet of things. And Shannon, that is awesome. And I wish everyone would do that for their state. Best time to use that. If you just sent it to us, we really wouldn't be able to keep it updated and all that. But if you hear of something happening in your state, if you got that, okay, that's from this city or whatever, and you got that list together for us, that would be perfect. So that's a really great way for you that you could help. And then the other comment I want to talk about was Bruce, who just popped in, and when he said he's in the West Virginia group, he's actually one of our moderators, and we've got about, I don't know how many we have now, 30 some odd moderators who help me moderate all 50 groups because there's just no way I could do it myself.
Wow.
And, those guys are awesome. A lot of them own shops and stuff. That's what I'm saying. I know that you're vapors too, and I couldn't do without them. The other day on the Facebook Live, Alex graciously butchered all their names. But yeah, I mean, because they're just why am I'm dinging? But yeah,
you're dinging. People are seeing your face for the first time in a long time.
I thought it was plugged. I feel like I'm getting a low battery message here, even though I'm plugged in. Oh, my strip wasn't on. Okay, I see. But thanks to Bruce. Hi, Bruce.
Alex, real quick, have you gotten any feedback from the postal system on their thoughts of this? I mean, I haven't heard anything from them at all. Like, no, this is stupid, or no, we won't.
I mean, as you pointed out, first of all, I think depending on, I think the way that postal employees are interpreting the current policy varies from location to location.
Yeah.
I mean, the risk with shipping any liquid nicotine is if something breaks open, now you've exposed to workers to something potentially harmful. You have to declare that it's a hazardous substance, and that's,
Well, I was told I needed a nicotine license. I was told I needed a nicotine license. Yeah, that's weird. I know.
Not sure what that is. Maybe it's a state thing.
Seller.
What state is that?
California. I think you do.
I think you do.
I think you do.
I'd have to look it up. It's on the website.
I think everyone that deals with nicotine has to have some sort of license. I think here in the state of California, I think it applies to even vendors, everybody, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. But I haven't. No one from the Postal Service has reached out to us. I don't imagine that they would. Actually, the FAA reached out to us a couple of years in a row, especially after they clarified what you can take on board and what has to and it can't go in the carry-on or in the check baggage. But they reached out a couple of years in a row to ask us to promote their sort of safety materials, and they just wanted to communicate the new policy to people. And out of anybody I've dealt with in the government, people at the FAA were the nicest. So there you go.
That comment that John just put up, that is fantastic to read.
Yeah, it is.
Nice. Good Guy Vape side. I mean, Jersey, right?
Jersey.
Jersey.
And he's a great guy. He's a great guy. Tim, what was your question, Tim? Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to sort of preface the question, right? So are we still talking about House Bill 1253, or do we just glaze right past that one?
No, we're still on it.
Okay, all right. So it went from 1253 to UPS and FedEx, and now we're to a question that I was probably should have talked about before. But one thing that kind of came up during the conversation was is that it seems as though there's quite a contingent of people that seem reliant on CASAA to really sort of facilitate information to them. Because I think this is maybe the first time for quite a few people. I'll even throw myself into the soup pot on this one and say that, this is maybe the first time where we can legitimately say that government choices and heavy-handed government has really sort of directly impacted our lives, right? I mean, most of the time, you just sort of like, politics just kind of roll off your shoulders because if it doesn't affect you, you really don't care. But this is something that's directly affected a large community of people. And I think it goes without saying that there's a lot of people that didn't know about organizations like CASAA and American Vaping Association and all that stuff. So with that said, I wanted to go back a little bit because Alex, you brought it up in the beginning with regard to Kristin and that great post about the origins of CASAA. But my question is, what manufactured CASAA? What was the inspiration and the idea behind it? Like, what spurred it? Because I feel like maybe something that gets brought up from time to time is that now that we're sort of in the 11th hour of this fight, maybe some of the backlash is that we didn't really have anybody standing up and fighting for us, or maybe we didn't know what we were doing. We just got so excited by the massive, wave and influx of vaping as a developing technology. But what was the inspiration for CASAA? Why did it start?
Well, I was there, so I suppose I could say I'm that old. It basically, there was so much misinformation being put out, and we were really naive back then and thought, okay, they just don't know. They don't understand. We've quit smoking, and they think it's big tobacco, and it's not big tobacco. And we were pretty naive, thinking that this wasn't all purposeful. And as years went on, we realized, and we looked back at what they did with other tobacco products and said, oh, okay. But there was just so much stuff going out that was just wrong. And we thought, well, somebody needs to be out there countering this stuff and getting truthful information out, because, again, being naive, we thought, okay, if people just knew, they just don't care. We thought it would help. And so when a bunch of people from the forum, from the e-cigarette forum, well, they had a summit or something, and then they nominated a bunch of different people to be on the first board of directors. And then we, who were elected, had to come up with a name and what our mission was and all that, and what we were going to do. And we wanted to include not just vaping, because we realized by that point, this was about 2009, that harm reduction was a thing. We learned about things like, Carl, Dr. Brad Wodu, Carl Phillips, other people like that were kind of saying, hey, this is all part of a thing that we've been doing for years with snus and other smokeless things, and they were starting to embrace vaping too. And so we learned a lot from them. So that's why we became not the Consumer Advocates for Vaping, but the Consumer Advocates for Smoke-Free Alternatives Association. I didn't want that last A on there, but it was a mouthful. And we knew it was a mouthful. That's why we became CASAA. But it was to, hopefully, what we wanted to do was get get as many people to join and as much information out there. We started doing calls to action because nobody else was. You know, that wasn't our original purpose. Our original purpose was we were hoping to do things like press releases and meeting with media. Again, pretty naive, thinking, oh, we're there, so they'll come contact us. No.
Nope.
So then what we needed to do, was essentially fake it till you make it. You know, we tried to put up as nice of a website as we could, got a lot of information, made nice logos as best as we could. Nothing like what Danielle's doing for us now. But it was back in 2009. Remember the internet back in 2009.
Yeah.
And have this sort of grandiose name and putting out press releases and things like that to try to sound like we were a lot more important than we actually were at the time. And it worked in a lot of cases. Unfortunately, it worked in a way where a lot of vapors thought that we were this big, huge organization out there representing them with lobbyists and PR.
I did at the beginning. I figured you guys had lobbyists everywhere. I was like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, and we didn't, and we tried to work with other groups as much as possible. And by default, we ended up doing the calls to action because nobody else was. You know, the industry took so long to get involved. I mean, so long to organize because they were so fractured. And you know, even with CASAA, every once in a while, somebody didn't like what we were doing or our stance and would pop up and say, "I'm going to make my own organization," and you know. I don't know where
they started. They started. Yeah, exactly.
And then they realize how hard it is. Yeah. And so that's how we ended up getting into the calls to action. Really, that wasn't what we were sort of. We were supposed to be a PR organization. We were supposed to be like the opposite of PAVE. You know what I mean? The exact opposite of PAVE. And getting information out there. And we just ended up having to take on more of an advocacy and then doing all the calls. I mean, I used to do all the calls to action before Alex, and actually before we got Greg. And it was literally going to every website and finding and copying and pasting every email address, you know, and putting them out. And that was a lot of work, but nothing like it is now because it hadn't started rolling yet the way it does now. But did I answer your question?
Yeah, for the most part, I think it's interesting that, you know, most people probably in the Example Box group. I mean, I'm not sure about the YouTube crowd that's on here because I get the feeling they're probably a little bit more involved already. But I mean, Example Box is comprised of a lot of different levels of vapors. I mean, it's not a bunch of advanced, long time, you know, cronies like us who've been 7 or more years and have a little bit more experience. But you have a lot of beginners, people that are just now getting into harm reduction and vaping and stuff like that. And by no fault of their own, it's overwhelming. It's like, you know, oh my God, you know, we've got this great thing and now it's on the verge of being gone. And so we try to encourage advocacy as much as we can, even though we make it a community page as well. So it's interesting that a lot of people just found out that it was more or less an organic organization. It was driven by people who care about vaping and stuff like that. And so, you know, like you said, it was, you know, a lot of people think, oh, it's like this tremendously huge organization, but it's important to know the great work that you do and that everybody really is a part of CASAA when you sign up. I mean, it's about what vaping has been about. You know, it was a product created by vapors for vapors to get people off of smoking, and that's, you know, impressive.
And the reason, to answer your question, I think I remember to answer your question in 2009, it was FDA versus SADA or SADA versus FDA, one or the other, and that's where they were seizing shipments. The FDA was seizing shipments and calling vapor products unapproved drugs. And at that time, we sort of had a lesser of two evils choice, you know, rock and a hard place. I mean, it was, you could either be a drug or you could be a tobacco product. And tobacco products at that time weren't really regulated because the Family Tobacco Act hadn't really kicked in completely, and at all really, and but it was coming up. And so the FDA, that's the only choice they had was drug. And we immediately, every single product would have been illegal. Every single product would have had to come off the market. Done. You're done. They're seizing stuff.
Lost the audio there.
You're muted. You got muted, Christian.
All right.
There you go. There you go.
You're muted.
I didn't touch. Apparently, hand gestures will mute you. Where did you lose me at?
About the seizing of the drugs and.
Right.
Yeah. So they were. So yeah, we would have been completely out of. There'd be no vaping today had that passed. None today.
Right. Yeah.
And so they argued that, well, they're a tobacco product, and or I mean, they tried to argue alternative, but either way, the FDA couldn't because of the ruling of the judge. They couldn't ban them as unapproved drugs. So the judge gave the opinion. Now, the judge did not order the FDA to do this, but the judge gave the opinion that, well, you've got the Family Tobacco Act, you've got this deeming power, you could, if you wanted to do that, but you can't treat them as drugs unless they make a therapeutic claim of like helps you quit smoking.
Right.
And so we got involved in that, and we did an amicus brief. Is amicus brief?
Yeah.
I hate that word. And got involved in that, and that was our first official thing that we did. So we're gonna say something else?
Before we get too far away from it, I did want to say that that Satara case is kind of the earliest example of the fact that these products have been subject to some form of regulation since they landed in the United States. The way that it's worded is, those manufacturers, I believe, were guilty of making smoking cessation claims about their products, which,
not those two.
I mean, I don't care if you're selling bottled water or Cheerios, for example. If you make a therapeutic or a health claim about your product, it's immediately under the jurisdiction of the FDA, even before the Tobacco Control Act. And so for the people who are talking about, this being the Wild West and there's absolutely no regulation, no, you're wrong.
Baloney.
Vapor companies, I mean, any company, doesn't matter what you're making. If you're out there saying that your product cures something or is a therapy for something, FDA is well within their authority to send you a letter saying, knock it off. You have to go through pre-market approval for a therapeutic drug or device. And you've got 15 days to tell us how you're going to do that. So
something I always bring up, and I always bring this blue, and I always talk about this, and maybe I'll get a different answer from one of you two, but maybe from what I remember, I'm older, so I remember the blue coming out. I remember everybody going crazy. I remember it being on the Phil Donahue show. It was on all the morning talk shows, everything. Now, I understand that the industry took off and it went from, $100,000 industry to what it is today. But what do you think changed? What part from the blue to 2016, what changed people's opinion of this? Is because I remember people saying, oh my God, thank God, here's a product that's actually helping people quit smoking, to, oh my God, this is going to kill you. Is it, no one's ever given me an answer. So
nothing.
Go
ahead, Alex. I'll let you talk because I just babbled for a while. So
I babbled too. So I mean, the question is, what happened between the sales going to everybody thinking vaping is just a toxic mess? And I mean, the simplest answer is the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids and the Truth Initiative happened. We had, I looked back. One of the reasons why I got involved in this is I was living in New Jersey in 2013. That's where I found vapor products. And within those first 2 weeks of researching all the different products, trying to make sure I was, doing it right. I also had that, at that time, more and more states were passing indoor smoking laws. New Jersey had one. I saw the signs at the office building next to my old job. And so I wanted to see if they had updated their code to include vaping. And sure enough, New Jersey was the first state to redefine smoking to include vaping. And you can look back at least at the time, NJ GASP is the sort of well-known in the halls of justice kind of anti-smoking lobbying group. And they had a white paper on e-cigarettes, and a lot of the arguments they were making in favor of changing the law to ban vaping indoors were just like these just ridiculous arguments. Like I'm fairly confident that like ninth graders can form better arguments, but seriously, one of their points was the marketing materials say it looks just like smoking, so it must be just as dangerous as smoking. Like
Oh my God.
that doesn't make any sense.
Or it's going to confuse people are going to get confused trying to keep straight whether somebody's actually smoking a cigarette or vaping. They're going to be so confused they won't be able to tell the difference. And we're like, clearly you've never seen anybody vaping, because there's a huge difference.
especially the old Cigalites, they used to light up. I mean, I've never seen a cigarette that lights blue. I mean,
no.
Right. Well, I mean, my first ones literally had a tan like filter and the white and the orange tip. Because I was one of those people, I had to find something that was just like what I was smoking. That lasted all of a week. That was a ridiculous, because first of all, you can see that they're holding it. It's not getting any smaller. You can't smell any smoke. There's no ashes coming off of it. I mean, it was ridiculous to say that it was going to get confused, or that because they say it's just like smoking, then it is as dangerous as smoking. I mean, that's a huge leap, like Alex was saying, huge leap.
And I will tell you, I don't know this from personal experience, but I had heard it from friends that the bars in Hoboken, New Jersey, know the difference between smoking and vaping, and they let the vapors stay inside.
They let them stay inside. There was a couple places here in California that were, oh, you're vaping? All right, you're all right.
Well, that's the thing too, is like when Robert asked the question, Chad, you just like, how are we supposed to defend vaping when we have politicians who clearly don't care about the facts?
Referring back to when Cuomo said his famous "so what?"
Yeah, well, he's not the only one, but I mean, it's a logical question. Like, those of us who have talked to politicians, they are dead set on certain things.
Well, part of my other story about how CASAA got started is we knew that we weren't enough. I mean, we knew that us alone, that we weren't big enough yet. And so one of our goals, because we knew we didn't have the money or the membership to be sending out lobbyists, and we didn't have on-staff lawyers and all that, we thought this is going to take years. And in that time period, we can get more people who start vaping. We get more members. By the time we get to this deeming and everything, maybe we'll have 1 million members, and there'll be millions of vapors, and we'll just be a force to be reckoned with. So it was, like I said, fake it till you make it. And that's one of the things that we were doing, is hoping that we would grow, hoping that more people would learn, hoping we'd get more. I mean, every politician who has a loved one who quits smoking with vaping is going to automatically be on our side. It's going to get to that point. So that's the thing, is we wanted to keep doing the time thing. And unfortunately, we're getting close to running out of time, but we never got as big as we should have. And part of that would have been businesses getting people, but I don't think they were all about PR organizations and lobbyists, and didn't realize that that's one of the reasons why we didn't go a lot, because you're at a little, or even a state one, and you've got 100 constituents in front of you. That says something. You got 6 lobbyists that aren't even from your state. That's why we needed more consumers. That's why we needed more of us to be out there doing this stuff, not having Greg go everywhere or Alex go everywhere. We need us there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's been, and I will, I maybe the Pollyanna in me is coming out. I am a bit optimistic in terms of, we haven't run out of time. In fact, I mean, we are coming up on the most critical moment. That message to lawmakers is about to change substantially. And first of all, you're putting people in as these laws take effect. So in New York right now, if you are buying products on the underground or the gray market, if you're getting them from the reservation, or a guy with a car in a parking lot, you write that letter to your lawmaker, you're basically, you're copping to committing a crime.
Yep.
So the story changes a little bit, but I think we're officially we have been in this space now where tobacco harm reduction advocacy very closely parallels, drugs harm reduction advocacy. And we now have a class of people who are about to feel criminalized and targeted for just trying to improve their lives. But that's, that message doesn't land with lawmakers unless they hear it repeatedly and in huge waves of communication. I mean, part of the point of trying to build up our membership so huge is I want to be able to fire off an email and get thousands of people responding on a bill. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous to think that we're going to crash, email servers in a legislature. We crash servers all the time when people want us to help with surveys. It would be great if we could, jam. We have jammed up legislative offices in the past. But it's all about that repetition and the size of people, the response that lawmakers see that grab there. Just like Kristin said, 100 people sitting in a room saying, I vape, I vote. That sends a pretty clear message to people. And then, we can get into the whole election politics of things too, which is not my wheelhouse.
And that's why, and that's why we've kept membership. We don't charge membership fees. We wanted people to join. If you did nothing else, join, and then when you get an email, send it off. I mean, it's all written for you. All you have
it's all done. It's all done for you.
And we just can't even get people to join. Alex, what's our membership up to now?
It's just north of 250,000, which is a lot. I mean, it's
a lot. 11 years. 11 years.
we have 250,000 people with a 15% open rate on our emails.
Open rate, yeah.
So it's not as bad as it sounds. I mean, I know everybody's temptation to say, well, to get 250,000 out of 15 million people who use the products, and we're all just a bunch of slackers. It's disappointing. But when you really think about it, that is a pretty big number compared to other organizations. I mean, even compared to these, the antis that we're dealing with, they don't see engagement numbers like what we're putting up. Right. They're effective because they have the history of the tobacco wars behind them. They have millions of dollars for which they can use for, slick media campaigns and lobbyists. And they can get these persons, they can show up at fundraisers and have one-on-one conversations with lawmakers. So it sucks to say it, but for them, it's the money that makes them so effective.
Yeah, and it keeps rolling in.
Alex is being nicer than me. I've been doing this since 2009. I thought by 2020 we'd have 1 million people in our organization by now, especially it being free. I'm honestly flabbergasted that we don't have more members. And Alex is right. I mean, he's absolutely right. We for what this is, and if you look at the engagement of everything else, just in general, you talk to any nonprofit and anything where you're trying to get people to advocate, it's like pulling teeth or herding cats or whatever analogy you want to use. Yeah. But so it is great. It is great that we do have the participation that we have. But we need so much more. We just need so much more.
How much involvement does CASAA have with the FDA and CDC at all? I mean, do they keep in touch with you guys? Are you guys keeping in touch? None, huh?
No, I mean, we monitor all the opportunities that may come about for, public comment. FDA doesn't really want to meet with us. FDA doesn't regulate consumers. They regulate.
You guys have tried then. You guys have actually tried to schedule a meeting with.
Yeah, we
tried to get on DIPSEC.
Yeah, we've successfully met with the Office of Management and Budget, Office and the OIRA, the other one, OMB and OIRA. That was years ago. Carl, Julie, and Brian Carter went to DC and we presented stacks of our testimonial. We printed out all of our testimonials and they wheeled them in on a cart. It was dramatic, and then handed them a thumb drive and said, obviously we don't expect.
I would have gave them all those papers.
I would have. But it's not, I won't say it's the only meeting, but that would be the only sort of agency type of meeting that we're able to get. We've definitely tried. I tried to be included in the White House meeting. I think the way the administration saw it was they had Greg. That's good enough. To represent consumer voices. And I would have loved to be there. I certainly had something actually very personal to share with the president. But we'll save that for another time.
He's watching. He's watching.
Right.
We're on Fox News. Is that what's happening?
I wish, but no, he's not watching.
We don't have that kind of pull.
Yeah. No. He's busy watching the Cartoon Network right now. So.
Oh, I'd rather him be watching the Cartoon Network.
Oh man!
Hey, John, can you fix the trailer at the bottom of the screen? You misspelled CASAA.
Did I? Oh, I did.
That's been bugging me since it got pointed out by
dude.
One of our lovely guests.
How long have you not seen that and not tell me?
As soon as
I don't even see that anymore. It's been misspelled so many times.
Oh, I must have.
I've been trying to message you. Emails to myself.
Oh, did you try to message me? I can't believe I did that.
No, we were talking about it in our private chat.
On
StreamYard here.
I was messaging him.
It's pretty common. Their main name.
I do it.
See,
what did I tell you? I always make a mistake.
Not CASAA.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Go ahead, Tom.
How can we get more people involved in CASAA?
Well, crisis is a pretty good motivator. Yeah. Crisis is a pretty good motivator for people, and we're about to have one. The only thing I think that sort of makes that difficult is that any success we have is not going to be immediate. Again, this is a multi-year fight. This could be a decade before we see anything really, really start to improve. We're not a breaking news panic kind of organization. It's another reason why we don't just post up all the bills that we find. But there is certainly an opportunity, I think, for us to capitalize on what's about to happen in September. And we're going to lose that. Yes, you're asking about vape shops. Do vape shops share CASAA with their customers? No, I don't. Most shops don't. And most shops are not going to be in a position to share this with CASAA, which is another benefit for us to be, the all-encompassing tobacco harm reduction group, because we're probably going to have to start speaking to, the smoke shops, the head shops, anybody that sells any kind of smoking gear or, smokeless tobacco or any of that stuff. C-stores, maybe not at all, but, the independent smoke shops, we are allies in this, whether they know it or not. We're not going to stand up and fight for cigars, but this idea of keeping
the cigar people have enough money; they can handle their own business.
They're doing just fine.
They're doing just fine.
I think this whole idea is that tobacco regulations have slowly moved towards an all-out prohibition. They may not say it, but anybody who's got free, as in tobacco free or drug free or alcohol free in their organization's name, they're advocating for prohibitionist policies. So we have a lot more allies than we actually think, because this is now, vaping is being shoved into the war on drugs. And the idea of going full bore after tobacco, their strategy is to, it's a Grover Norquist quote, they don't necessarily want no tobacco. They just want the industry small enough that they can drown it in a bathtub. And trust me, if they get that opportunity, they'll absolutely put their hands around our necks and shove us in the water. It still is, it's shifting to, we need to have a conversation about, fair, tailored regulation that allows these. Oh, you've got another typo in the thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did I do it again?
Yeah.
The link.
In the link.
The link is wrong.
Oh, I thought
Yes, we are not.
You fixed the name, but
Oh
no.
man, I am having one of those days, man.
Tom and Brian, we need to have a meeting after this meeting to talk about our.
Make sure he's getting his medications right.
We already had a meeting before this meeting, and now
I took my medicine this morning, guys. I swear to God, no.
Okay.
I got you. Bam. All right. It should be correct now.
So now,
hey, that looks right.
I wish I had my soundboard. I'd be doing it. I would push that key right now.
Now we can sleep tonight. Oh my goodness.
One of the things I stress and on the page, on the sample box page, and in this on the show is as vapors talking with their families, is getting your families involved and letting them join CASAA. And because to me, it's like, who better knows you than your family? If you were a smoker, they know what your health was, and now you're vaping, they should be able to see your better skin, you're breathing better, you're walking, they can see that this product is helping you. And I think a lot of us vapors need to get our families involved, your moms, your dads, your brothers, your sisters, and most of us, I think I did a poll on the page. A majority, it was a pretty good high number. A lot of our families are backing us up. There's very few people in our families that are saying, "Oh my God, it's going to kill you," blah blah. And getting them involved, getting them over to CASAA, getting them registered with CASAA, and getting them to do the call and action would be huge. Of the 250,000 people, if everybody just got one family member to join. To join the organization and to do the calls, that'd be a huge help for you guys. I mean, yeah, and for us,
huge help for all of us. I mean, that's a story that I think is not told enough. I see every now and then, a mom or sister or brother will say, my family member has quit smoking by switching to these products, and I'm super happy for them. I've got, this person is now more involved in our family and whatever, all of the good things that come with quitting smoking. And I think that's, part of I have this hang up about self-promotion to my detriment and really to CASAA's detriment. I'm sorry. But it's always been my sort of partially baked internal policy that I'm not going to go out and make a big noise about myself or, me being great or whatever. To me, it's more about people being able to vouch for me or someone else who is not involved in what I'm doing. In this example, someone who doesn't vape, but sees the value and very much appreciates their friend or family member having access to these products, that person being able to add their voice and almost vouch for us and say, these are good things, don't take them away from the people I love. I think the more of that, the better. So definitely bring it.
I stress it all the time. Just get one person in your family. If that's all you can do is just getting one person to come on over to CASAA and sign up, because I've always said, I mean, these are people that see you every day. They see the changes in you that has happened since you quit vaping. I mean, my mom, my dad, they always tell me your skin looks better. You're not wheezing, I just wish more people would do that. Now there was a question here. I don't know about this.
I'll read it off because it ties in with what you said next.
Yeah.
What are the odds the New York State vape ban will be taken to court and ruled out?
Slim to none, as far as I know. And it is technically, I mean, read the law carefully. Technically not a ban. It prohibits the sale of products that are not given a market approval from FDA. If companies can get a flavor other than tobacco across the line, you can sell it in New York State. So if there's any opportunity to deal with this law, which I don't know how this happens, because you would basically be telling the states, ignore the federal regulations. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Of course, depending on the state, hopefully there will be some states that want to stand up for their small businesses and for people who smoke and people who vape in their states, and maybe they'll fight back a little bit. But none of this really gets dealt with until next session. So the earliest opportunity anybody's going to have to fix this bill is, I think, January, February in New York.
Well, that's the one that was in the budget, right?
That was the budget one, yeah.
Did you read that article, Alex, about that? I mean, there has been some pushback over what the governor can do in New York when it comes to, in the budget, basically passing laws with the budget. And if they keep pushing back on that, that could come around to reversing some of this stuff. You never know if some people, people in New York push on that.
I haven't read the article. I will. It's actually pretty common practice. I mean, we were talking about this earlier with the federal bills. HR 2058 and HR 1136 ended up in an omnibus must-pass bill with all kinds of things. And so it tends to happen. Politicians they sneak in the more controversial stuff and try to fly it under the radar. Bills that are thousands of pages long, there's not, congressional staff aren't sitting around poring over the whole bill looking for all these little details. It's a massive team effort to read one of these budget bills if anybody actually reads it. They're focused on the specific things that their constituents are worried about, and they're taking care of that business. But it's one of those, I think, like if democracy is dying, then shoving a bunch of stuff in a budget bill is one way that it's happening.
So,
well, I know that in Wisconsin, I'm sorry, but I know that in Wisconsin that Evers just got had some problems because here the legislation, the House or whatever, the Assembly or whatever we have in Wisconsin, they put the budget together, and then the governor goes over it and says, I want this, I don't want that, or whatever. And in New York, they gave the governor the power to write the budget, and then basically said the legislature can't change anything. And so there's nothing they can do when he writes this budget, either pass it or don't. And if they don't pass it, then you've got the whole nothing's financed issue, So, New York could be something. New York's a little bit different. You should read that article.
Yeah. I'm not up to date.
Well,
sorry, I cut somebody off.
For those who are watching and who don't know how certain things work federally or state-wise, can you explain to them like which one trumps the other? Like does federal beat state beat federal type thing, so that like people know?
It depends. And even within states, there's that hierarchy of authority, right? So you have your city, counties. Typically, county laws tend to deal with unincorporated areas. So county and city are both considered local governments, and they deal with different areas of the land. And then your state can, a lot of state laws override any municipal stuff. Usually what happens is, these sort of lower forms of government will pass conforming legislation so that their local policies match the state. And we have this discussion about preemption at the state level and at the federal level. The Tobacco Control Act is a good example. The authorities that FDA has, there are certain things that only the federal government can regulate when it comes to tobacco products. So when we saw the flavor ban proposal in New York last year, or like 2 years ago, he tried to do it by executive order, granting the authority to the health department. And the way that it was written, basically the state would be regulating the manufacture of products. The state doesn't have the authority to do that. That is all FDA. So the state can regulate sales, possession, and use, but can't do anything about manufacturing. They're preempted by federal law. And so one of the things, and actually even the COVID-19 discussion has sort of brought this issue to the forefront. In some states, governors have prohibited counties and cities from doing anything different from the state law. It is one of the most bizarre kind of flips that happens between the left and the right. The right argues all the time for states' rights and states' authority on certain things. But when it comes to the lower levels of government at the local level, they don't want local governments making decisions that may be, specific to their population and their needs. And this is what we're seeing. In some states, the governor has basically preempted all of the counties and cities from making their own rules about the COVID response, which has really hampered their ability to respond effectively, because they have to go by this one-size-fits-all policy at the state level. So, yeah, it's a complicated answer, and I hate to leave it at like it depends, but it really does depend on how the law is written and whether or not the state or federal government can preempt smaller government's actions.
Yeah.
And a lot of federal laws aren't really laws so much as suggestions, but we're going to withhold money if you don't do it.
Right.
Yeah, that's their play. It's like, yeah, that is their play. You don't do this, well, you might get a little less money for senior citizens or your busing or your whatever.
Our money that we give them, by the way, don't forget.
Yeah,
that.
our money. Yeah, it's our money.
Well, the reason why I bring that up is because I've had talks with a few people saying, well, federally it's 21, but my state still says it's 18. So
yeah, we
I'm
talked
still
about
18.
this.
And I'm like, yeah, so that's kind of why that question kind of gets still brought up here and there. It's
technically still 18 then.
Right.
Yeah.
But if if a federal employee or if the state, I mean, yeah, it's hard because
it's hard. Yeah.
The Fed can then do something to the state for not enforcing it, essentially. I mean, it's.
And this, I think, is going to touch on something that we're going to see, is going to be really important here coming up. One thing that we've known all along, and was actually, I think, one of the central arguments in our comment all the way back in 2014, in opposition to the deeming rule, was that the FDA it's impossible for them to enforce this stuff. They just don't have the human beings in Maryland to do this job. And so they have to basically develop these partnerships with state and local departments of health, or whatever state agency does tobacco enforcement, in order that effectively the states become the enforcement arm of the FDA. And so, yeah, there's plenty of states out there that have not updated their minimum legal sales age laws. And it's not like the FDA is going to send an inspector to, the corner cigarette shop to enforce it. It will be up to the state. And yeah, in the interim, I can't remember what they're withholding funding for Tobacco 21, but there is that
yeah.
funding.
That's exactly what they did for the alcohol one too.
Yeah.
Madison's got a big, long question.
Is that a question or a statement?
I think that's a
statement.
That's a bit of clarification. Yeah, that's what I was saying. With cannabis,
right.
States on their own have obviously legalized recreational use. So I'm not sure if we will have any champions in the states that will allow for vape shops to stay open, and how much heat are they going to get, not just from the FDA but from the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. And let's say like a state decides we're going to actually have flavors. We're actually going to be able to do this stuff. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. But what if a state did that? Like, what would happen? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of what you're saying.
Well, Pennsylvania could do that because they're making money. If they were to say, "Hey, we're banning vaping," what would stop Pennsylvania from saying, "Hey, you know what? We're getting 45 cents tax on every milliliter of e-juice." Well, we're not going to do it.
That brings up an interesting point, though, right? Because, if you're putting the PMTA up against what states are currently doing, I read something the other day where apparently. In the Georgia House legislation, which that's where I live in Atlanta, near Atlanta, they pushed through, or at least got the approvals to pass a 7% tax on vaping products here in the state. So that said, there hasn't been any other word or any other peep about whether or not they're going to go after any kind of a flavor ban or anything like that. That conversation is not being being had. It's now they want to tax. So you would think in some way, shape, or form they might turn a blind eye to anything else and say, hey, well, we'll go ahead and let you kids vape. Enjoy your cotton candy out in front of the vape shop because we're getting some coin, right? But
Nope.
the federal will trump all that.
No. No, look at Minnesota. Look at Minnesota, 90 some odd % tax. They
90.
still are trying to do flavor bans.
Yeah.
They're still trying to do it. Concessions don't work, you guys. You think, okay, well, we'll just do tobacco 21, then they'll leave us alone. That didn't happen. Well, then we'll let them tax us, then they'll leave us alone. Nope. Look at all these other places that they're still, what did New York do? New York banned the flavors, then put a 75% or tax on it or whatever.
We have a 20% or 20% retail tax in New York.
I'm not arguing.
But they were trying to. Wasn't he trying to do like a 75%? He tried to do something like that. So I mean, it's you think that that's going to do something. It's just not. Then they said, well, once we get rid of all the pods and all these cigarette likes and stuff, then they'll leave us alone. Well, not what was it? Not 2 weeks after, I think it was Juul pulled all its flavors. Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids put out a tweet or something about how mods are twice as addictive as anything else.
Instantly, too.
Immediately. So you guys think that concessions and throwing other people, not you guys, but I mean, people think that concessions and throwing other business models under the bus is going to save them, and it's not. If you have visible vapor and you contain nicotine, you're a target. Doesn't matter what you do. I mean, in the old days, back in 2009, they'd say, why are we calling them e-cigarettes? Why'd they name them that? We need to call it something else.
It wouldn't have mattered.
And they were convinced if we change the name. So we pretty much all started calling it vaping. And we tried to warn them back then. I was one of the people who said, vaping's associated with a different drug, right? Well, it sounds better. That's what we're doing. We're vaping. So everybody started calling it vaping. And what did the ants do? They call it ends.
Yeah.
They don't care what we call it.
Yeah.
They don't care. So this whole, well, if we do this, if we do that, that's what I'm saying. We learned over time that we were really naive, that we thought it was all a big mistake and they just didn't understand. No, they've got decades of practice with cigarettes, smokeless, anything else in getting these things banned and the narrative, change the narrative.
And as we talked about on this show, they are starting to listen to us. So they're getting educated. So they're not stupid anymore. They're making sure that these new laws that they're writing in don't have the loopholes that they did in the beginning. Everybody's like, you read those first legislation and everybody's like, oh, but I'll just sell nicotine separate. I'll just
switch to DIY. Now they're just closing up all those loopholes.
Those loopholes are gone. People just think, oh, we're going to get around it doing this and that. No, they're getting smarter. They're listening to us. They're paying attention for once. And they're somewhat kind of understanding how this product works. Yeah, they're finally kind of understanding how this product works. Because in the beginning, they had no clue. Obviously, they had no clue.
Well, they still don't have a clue.
I'm going to jump in and say, no, they haven't actually learned a damn thing through all of this. Because right now there are people in New York State selling vapor products out of the back of their car. It's an absolute failure of regulation. It's a failure of democracy. It's a failure of science. I mean, the failures are just, they keep going on and on and on. So they may have figured out the lingo, man. But they didn't figure out the community. They
didn't figure that out.
No.
With all
THC e-cigarettes.
Yeah, e-cigarettes.
THC e-cigarettes. They still haven't figured the lingo out either.
No. So,
but do you think the anti people are just using wordplay? I mean, you have to assume they kind of got by now. After 12 years, they've kind of somewhat understand how this. No.
They know. They know how
They're
not
it works.
Dumb. They are purposely twisting the word to manipulate the public. Exact same thing they did with smoking. Same thing.
They can tell you what makes up a mod and what's in a pod system, cigarette thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's there's that movie out there called Merchants of Doubt. Have you seen it?
No, I,
Everybody's favorite quack scientist is in it, Stanton Glantz.
Yeah.
And I think this has a lot to do with it's all about the sugar industry, I believe. And it's a documentary. It was on Netflix. But you know, they highlight the tobacco industry playbook. And what's happened is all of the tobacco control people learned from the tobacco companies, and now they've taken the tobacco industry playbook and flipped it around and started using the same tactics to shut down any new tobacco products. So yeah, they're masters at what they do. And I mean, to us, it just feels like bullshit. But to the uninitiated, you know, these people are credible. Look at their logo. Like it comes off as coming from a credible source. And the average American, the average human across the world doesn't really read past the headline. And, you know, I'm sure you have to be.
No, they don't.
Let alone go and actually read the study that an article is based on. So they're counting on that. They're counting on everybody not being motivated to investigate and yeah.
And that's one of the things that I do when I'm doing those tweets, when I post the research things or on Facebook or Twitter, is I'll try to put, I've only got so much space on Twitter, but I try to put something in there why this is baloney. You know, and some people, why are you sharing this bad study? Because I'm trying to teach you something. Because tell me that once this hits the news and you see that title, you're going to be able to counter it. I mean, I actually read the studies, you know, I go through them, and it's the stuff I don't understand. I'll ask Bruce, you know, our president, you know,
I'm one of those guys. I have one of those guys that still says juice. I try my hardest to say e-liquid. It's so hard.
I try to say liquid myself, but I do slip and say juice occasionally. But it is irritating.
We've been trying to get people to stop saying that, but you know, that's a little thing. It's kind of like not saying smoker. You know, I mean, this whole. I mean, we prefer that, but we're not in this fantasy world that if everybody stops saying juice, it's going to change it. It just doesn't help.
Especially, you know, if you've been doing it for 8-9 years, like Tim's been to 8 years, it's just like juice.
The ants love it. They love it because they're like, oh, look, and then they'll show the one that looks like apple juice. Look,
oh my God,
juice
too. I remember that box. I mean, I remember that box.
The ants. In anything, we were trying to get away from anything that sounded like illicit drugs, but now we probably should have gotten more along lines with the marijuana group because they're being accepted all over the place.
You
know, but it's not that the politicians, they honestly don't know. Because you have to remember that the politicians, most of them, the politicians are us. You know, they have no more life experience. Most of them are just kind of wealthy and sheltered people. They have no clue. Or they're on the other end where they just trust the government. you know? But the ants, the Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids, Truth Initiative, Stanton Glantz, they know what they're doing. And they're the ones, I mean, I still remember being in, I think it was Illinois, and we were at a hearing there. Actually, I was watching. I think, I want to say Julie was there. I think Treese was there. There's a few old school of us. Some of these names are probably not going to mean anything to most people. But they were testifying, and people are getting up and speaking, and the person who was trying to pass this ordinance, I want to say it was an indoor ban, trying to pass the ordinance, couldn't answer any of the questions that the council had for them, and kept turning to the American Cancer Society lobbyist that was there. They had written the law, not the politicians.
Not the politicians.
The American, I think, or American Lung Association. This was a while ago. This was 2009, I want to say, or 2010. But that was when a lot of us went, "Are you kidding me? Our lawmakers aren't writing the laws. They're just having lobbyists write the stuff up, and then they don't even know." The people who are introducing it don't even know all the facts. They're just, the American Cancer Society, American Lung Association. They're all trusted health organizations. You know, if you're not going to trust the CDC and the FDA, I mean, who can you trust? Exactly. Exactly. You know, so that's where they're getting all their information from. And I see vapors make the same mistake. I'll post stuff and have headlines, and in my description, I'll say, this is why this article is off and what why I'm posting it, and then I'll just get dozens of stuff underneath there. Oh, baloney! I vape 8 meg or whatever the title is about. They didn't read the thing. They just saw the headline, and then they start commenting on the headline. They didn't read what I said about it or what CASAA said about it, or any of that. And that's, I wish people would, when CASAA puts stuff out, read what it says in there, because we're trying to, again, get the right information out. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't see the bad article and somebody doesn't tell you why it's bad and how to counter it, when it does come up, then I'll go into the comments underneath the article and I'll see all the comments, and I'll just see people just throwing stuff out there, and I'm just like, oh my God. If they would have read my post, they would understand how to counter this, or you go to our state pages.
Yeah, we're real good about that on the Sample Box page. We will not let anybody post any anti-vaping crap on our page at all. Zero. It comes up and an admin just deletes it, and we explain to them why we're doing this and why
we're the opposite.
Yeah, and it's just like, why?
We want you to post.
Yeah.
We will,
We'll
they'll
read that. They'll read that whole article, but they won't read the one that's important to say vaping.
Right.
And it's just,
but the thing is that in our like, we've got the We Are CASAA group, and we would post articles there, and the whole reason that, because it's sort of it's a bubble, where you don't have the general public coming and reading the articles there. It's not like sharing it on your Facebook page. Okay. Then why are you sharing that here? Because the average vapor can't make an argument as to why is it untrue that there's not, why is it untrue that there's a teen or youth vaping epidemic?
Welcome,
hey,
Matthew.
Good evening, everyone.
I seen a comment earlier for you, Matthew. Let me try and find it.
Well, that's a scary thought.
No, it was yeah.
Did it
Hello,
have
Kristin. Hello, Alex.
Hello.
Hello.
Wow, it's like
it gets and then they get mad. They're like, well, why are you taking that post down? And we try to explain to them that all you're doing is boosting this post up in Google, and it's just pushing it up to the top so everybody sees it. I mean, it's nonsense. You'll share that post, like we said, but you won't take the time to actually read a call of action, open an email, or read a good article about vaping. But yet, you can't wait to share this everywhere, And then
if you're going to share it, I mean, like I said, we'll let one be shared in our, we'll maybe share it on our page or in our group. But we'll share it as a learning moment. Okay, here's this article. It's out there. Here's what's wrong with it. You're probably going to see a bunch of these now, because usually when one article comes out, you get a bunch of them. So, so if you're just going off willy-nilly, we want our members to be informed on how to respond to these. Well, if they don't see the article and they don't get somebody who's experienced explain to them, here's how you respond to it. So that's why we would share it in our group.
Yeah.
Because we're not a we wouldn't share it on our own, I wouldn't put it on my thread, my personal Facebook page. Right. But I would put it in our group, because that group is there so you can discuss things, one of our state groups or whatever. We would allow it there, especially if it's about a study, like a BS study or something, here's why this is wrong. Because
do you got
like, if you go to now a hearing or someplace where you're giving testimony, and they go, I saw this article where rats all died when they ate strawberry vape juice, and you can go, wait a minute, CASAA said, A, it's a rat study, B, they didn't just use strawberry vape juice, they put bleach in it. We'll break it down. We'll break it down when this stuff comes out. So that's why we do a lot. But if they're just on Sample Box, they're just posting it going, look at this bullshit. Oh, sorry.
No, you can clarify.
That's not helping anything. That's not helping anything. If you're going to post a negative article, you need to post the counterpoints to it and say, here's why this article is wrong. But most people, you do that, they'll still just look at the head.
Yeah, we'll let them. I'm sorry, that's true. I forgot about that. But we'll let them post it, but a screenshot of it.
Yeah,
that's what we do. I forgot about that part.
Yeah, we do a screenshot.
They can share it, but they have to screenshot it. So this way it doesn't get any play every time someone reshares it or fucking starts commenting on it. So yeah, that's
So a
I
good
forgot.
way to equate this is the horror movie Nightmare on Elm Street. The more you share a bad article, the more powerful it gets. However, it is in human nature and it is in society's nature to share bad articles, especially if they haven't even read them. It could be the worst thing in the world. Oh my God, I have to share this everywhere. Everyone has to know.
Everybody's got to know.
Yeah.
All you're doing is continuing to share wrong information.
Well, yeah.
Give the Freddy Krueger more power.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
our
It's a
biggest
balance.
fear, our biggest fear on that page is the fact that we have so many newbies that are just coming into Zample Box, and that's just like, and they're already on that fringe, like, you know, they're a week in. Everybody remembers that first week of switching over.
Yeah.
And it's just
By the time they get to us, they're kind of
Yeah,
we're sick of this
so
stuff.
we're real careful.
But yet, by the same token, you know, it's like I don't want to not know this article's out there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's gonna get out there whether or not somebody cares it or not. And if it's out there and it's everywhere except for in We Are CASAA, and we're all like, what study?
Yeah.
What bad article? What are they saying? Huh? I didn't see that. Well, we kind of have to know.
Yeah.
You know, we got to know. We got to know what's being put out there because again, we're the information people.
Yeah.
We're trying to counter this stuff.
Yeah. I'll get like at least 2 or 3 a week on my personal page. I'll get tagged on by like a friend or a cousin. Oh, you know what I mean? It's like, oh God, here we go.
I'm going to break in and I'm going to punt to Tom when I'm done, but because he's had his hand up for a while, I will say you brought up a good point about all the new folks that are coming into your page.
Yeah.
Those new people are even more important now than ever because it's the folks who have just switched in the past, 2 weeks, a year. Those people are particularly vulnerable in what we're going to be going through very soon because they don't have the connections that the rest of us have. They may not be hip to being able to get this stuff on an underground market. So they're most likely to go back to smoking. And
Mold them early.
And those are the stories that we need to share going into this thing and all the way through it. I'm done. Tom, it's your turn.
I found that comment, and it was, I think we should set another I Vape, I Vote protest in Washington before September. Any news on that there, Matthew?
Oh, put me on the spot, why don't you?
Okay.
How do you think that happened?
Hey Matthew, it's really bad to have dead air time on a show.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what to say so I don't get yelled at by UVA.
I can answer. They can yell at me all they want.
Let's just say something is in the works right now.
Good.
Not going to be the original what we thought it was going to be, but there is something in the works right now. The only thing I can say is when it is announced, it is going to be a definite have to be there because for the people who the ellipse is not closed. I don't know who said that, but no. National Park Service is open.
So
for those of you who watch football and you're especially watch Packer games, we are at the last couple of seconds and we are going to be Aaron Rodgers deep in the pocket, and Rodgers to Rodgers needs to happen deep in the end zone. We are going to throw probably one of the biggest Hail Marys we have ever thrown by this.
It's good to hear. I'd rather it be far, but that's okay.
No.
All right. No. It could be far.
Just throws interceptions. No.
I'm trying to give the Wisconsin people a heart attack. That's all I'm trying to do.
We're
But
Wisconsin
this is going
people. Packers
to
fans
be
forever.
a Rodgers to
Always.
Rodgers Hail Mary at the last second. So we're playing this definitely close to the chest.
Yeah.
There will be an announcement as soon as we know definitely.
Yeah, awesome.
I think I still have a
Awesome.
bunch of UVA signs.
Awesome. Bring them. We're gonna need them.
No, I was supposed to be shipping them off somewhere. Or you guys were supposed to ship them from me because.
Oh yeah, we were doing the traveling signs going to whatever state needed them. Well,
they are in my garage now because I don't know what else to do with
Well,
them. I'm
bring
getting
them.
a dumpster soon, so if you want them back, you better.
I have 300 Flavor Save Lives signs sitting in the trunk of my car right now, along with booklets from Lindsay Stroud, the tobacco harm reduction booklets. That I have nothing to do with them right now because everywhere is shut down.
Yeah. Just start handing them out, Matt.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, let me be the guy standing on the side of the street with a fucking mask on, going, "Here, touch this book that I'm handing you." Like,
cough on it, lick
it. Sure.
You could just be like a sign spinner instead, just
a sign spinner.
Yeah.
I've tried to actually spin those signs. They don't spin very well.
Oh, someone went really old school and said Brett Starr.
Bart Starr.
Bart.
Damn heathen.
I gotta mess with you guys. I have to mess with Packer fans. Being a Rams fan, I have to mess with them.
When have they done anything?
Yeah, they got the leftovers.
Yeah.
Even though Matthews was a hell of a fucking player.
We won't get into football talk.
No, we're not going to do sports.
That's my sports show on Monday night on a different channel.
So, Alex, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you received an influx of monthly donations since the drive?
We did. We more than doubled our monthly donations. I think we added like 175, 178 monthly donations. And going into last week, it was less than 100. But as you'll remember, the real push of the campaign is the very small individual donations. So that actually amounts to I think it's a little over $1,200 a month. So definitely an improvement, but way far away from what we need. But in that regard, it was successful because we did get a ton of new monthly donors.
That's good. Now I know it's not anywhere near where you need to be, but more people do need to wake up and start donating. I'm glad you got a little bit of a starter push, we'll call it. And we say this all the time, CASAA is free. It is free to be a member, and every vapor should be a member of CASAA. With that being said, because it is free, I highly recommend people do donate, because CASAA is so important on the consumer side. CASAA is your representation in state, in federal, in anything. CASAA says, we are CASAA, these are our members. Now you have to think about it this way. CASAA walks in and says, we represent 12,000 vapors. They're going to go, that's cute. We don't care. CASAA walks in and says, we represent 2.5 million vapors. Okay, we're going to listen to you.
Right.
Because they don't just hear number of vapors, they hear number of potential voters.
And it's extremely simple to donate to CASAA. I mean, if you're buying a large juice order, instead of getting 10 bottles, get 8. Use that extra cash, send it to CASAA. It's that simple.
I put it in for myself. I put it into terms of just remember what a pack of cigarettes used to cost you.
Yep.
And take that just one pack a month that you're not smoking anymore, and the money that you've saved by switching to vaping. Take that 5, 7, or if you live in New York, 15.
Yeah.
Just once a month. It's it's money that you would have spent if you'd kept smoking.
Well, see, you just said it a lot better than I did, and that's why you are who you are.
I've been working on that one for a while.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this right now. John, how many people do you have watching right now, give or take?
15 on Facebook and 13 on YouTube right now. But YouTube's brand new. I just started the YouTube thing.
All right, so let's say 25 right now, give or take.
Yeah.
Okay. I will match up to $50 right now if everyone donates $1, $2, whatever.
Yeah.
We get up to $50, I will match it right now.
Yeah.
There you go.
I plan on matching. I plan on donating in general, but for this broadcast right now, one time only, right now on this broadcast, I will match up to $50.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be doing on our next week's show, we're going to be doing a giveaway. So we got so far 4 things that I donated to this, and two RTAs, dot mod, RDA and mod, brand new, and some e-juice. So we're working on something. It's going to be based on not a PayPal or anything. You're going to have to donate to CASAA, a minimum of $5, and screenshot that, and you're going to be entered into a raffle drawing that we will do. We're going to let that run for a week. We're going to try to maximize as much money as we can to send to you guys, and that's how we're setting it up. So the money, it's not going to a PayPal. All the money that you donate is going directly to CASAA. So, and I've got some really great prizes that are in there.
I'm going to interrupt you quick, John.
Go ahead.
Kathleen is asking on YouTube how to donate right now. Go to the CASAA website.
I already put the link
right
up
there.
The link's in there. I mean, I'm putting this mod up there. I mean, it's brand new in the box. Is part of the giveaway. Got two RTAs, 420 ml bottles of juice, and Sample Box is going to donate some boxes as well. So we're hoping we have a great, I can't say giveaway, but prize,
Secret squirrel prize.
Yeah, something. We'll call it something by then, but we're hoping that generates some cash flow going to CASAA. So.
Yeah. And we're working on some other people too.
And some other people, yeah.
All with that, whatnot too. So we're
going to take our time with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We want to make sure we're doing it right.
Phoenix Elixirs is putting in the full line in Winner's Choice Nick Strength. I just got confirmation right now.
Dun dun dun.
Nice.
See, I need my soundboard, damn it.
You can use it. Push buttons.
And that is from me and Lane Shannon at Phoenix Elixirs and Celtic Elixirs.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to put up the site here, right here. Let me get that right. Come on, John. You made enough mistakes today. No more mistakes.
I've got my hash marks going on right
here. There's the site. It says, scroll back up to the top, John.
Boom.
Right there in
dead
red.
Center.
Dead center. It says donate. That's where you go to click.
Yeah.
Up at the very top, John. Move your mouse.
I know, but I'm just moving my. It's just a natural thing for me to keep moving the mouse. It's
good thing I don't have a cat right now.
It's go. Yeah, it's right there, the donate button. Okay. Let me bring Kristin back in. Yeah, this is the page right here, guys. This is, you can donate from here as well. You go up to the donates link up top, but this is where it will take you when you click join CASAA, and it's pretty simple, guys.
And you have 2 options. You have the for the donation, you can donate monthly, which I highly recommend, even if it's $2. Or you can do a one-time donation.
Right.
Yeah, to answer Robert's question, no, your monthly donation is actually pretty awesome. So thank you.
Yeah.
You know, our goal here is to build up the monthly donations so that we have that steady funding stream. So absolutely, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody got any more questions for our panel here? We got about 3 minutes left for the show. So Tom, go.
What are your hobbies outside of CASAA?
This is what we ask everyone, all of our member spotlights, so we kind of get a little bit of an idea of what you do, and other than vaping.
Kristin,
Alex,
first. I'll go.
Kristen's
Yeah,
muted.
go ahead, Alan.
Kristen's muted.
I know I was muted. I was going to stay
Okay.
muted till Alex finished.
She probably waved her hands again.
Hobbies come and go. I used to. I was in a band in high school, so I played music for a while, and I like video games. Honestly, I'm stuck on a City Skylines on PS4. It's not as good as the PC version, I'm sure. For me. I also learned to sew this year in order to make masks. So my wife and I have been, and we sell masks at the local farmers market. The art center in town gets, I think, a 20% cut. So it's also raising money for them.
Nice.
I was in the restaurant industry for like over 10 years, like the crappy restaurant industry. So subs and cheesesteaks and pizza. But I love cooking. Yeah, that's is that it?
That's a great answer.
Photography used to be a thing too, but nothing's really been inspiring lately. So
Yeah, it's hard to take pictures of people wearing masks.
I mean, the masks are interesting, right? We got a bunch of fabric from our
There's
neighbor
mine.
street. Yeah, I mean, we've been making all kinds of. Mine are all the way over there, but I've become like really interested in the patterns and just working fabric. It's all very satisfying. It's hard, but it's satisfying.
I love all of you in the chat right now.
Why? What are they saying? I can't even
Got
see.
$10 donation, $50 donation, my $50 donation.
Nice.
Guys,
I don't know who Facebook user is, but thank you.
That was Matthew.
Matthew.
For some reason,
that's
our names
Matthew.
aren't showing up over on here. So,
And what is Kristen's hobbies other than vaping and collecting mods?
Collecting mods. Oh, I wish Drew was still around. He'd tell you how untrue that is. Oh Lord, if I'd still be using a 510 right now if it wasn't.
Oh
for
wow.
Drew.
We always have that one friend. We always have that one friend.
Julie's the one who collects mods. I mean, she's got everything under the sun. I've never been one of those. I don't know. I find what I like and I just stick with it forever. You should see. Okay. This is what I've got.
The Pico.
Ooh, the Pico.
Yeah. And what's funny is this is my new one that I just got a few weeks ago because the other one was exactly like this and completely scratched up to the point where the finish was gone and I only replaced it because the finish was gone. So that's how advanced I get. I don't know. Alex keeps me so busy. I can't have any hobbies.
You can have a
You
hobby.
have a life outside of CASAA? I mean, a lot of us advocates don't have a life outside of.
All right, just
Not
say,
much.
have you
And you know
flown a
what's funny?
kite in the last 2 weeks? Have you flown a kite in the last 2 weeks?
No.
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 Thrown a kite in the last 2 years.
same.
Well, it's funny because a lot of my advocacy is getting me into. It's changed me so much. I mean, my politics have changed so much since I got into vaping, and because it opened up my eyes on a lot of stuff. And what's funny is I got into cooking, low carb and keto, and so
cool.
I lost 50 pounds doing that, and I started a group for that. I've got a low carb vapors group.
Oh wow.
So go ahead and join. It hasn't been very active lately, but we've got people in there. And because it's kind of, believe it or not, it's very similar. I mean, because low carb, it goes against the mainstream, and there's a lot of special interests, and so it's very similar to vaping in a lot of ways. I'm also into. I cut the cord on my cable a few years ago, and so I'm kind of into that. The whole, I help people with doing that, and so I'm very active with that. I do a lot of reading. I'm into interior design. I work with a design program. I've been completely redoing my house, which has been taking some of my free time. I completely built my dream edition in 3D. It's so awesome. It's just so much fun. And I've got kids. So, I mean, I've got a 13-year-old daughter. she's on the spectrum, so she's it's been some interesting things with her not being in school and having her special ed teachers. And my 18-year-old actually she still lives with us, and she just got her CNA.
Matthew just wanted to be on the bottom. Matthew just wanted to be on
I
the
don't
bottom.
know why that happened.
did
That's so
that,
weird. My whole computer like glitched and then popped me back in here.
Who's in the bottom, in the middle, on the Brady Bunch?
Oh,
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm too old. Forget it. Never mind.
Yeah.
Why do I
yourself
have to be Alice?
It would be Alice.
Mom
Marsh.
or the dad, I think.
Marsha.
Marsha.
oh, it fucking better not be. If anyone's getting acquitted as Marshall, it's freaking Salter.
I think it might have been Mrs. Brady, because then they look up and isn't the logo,
I thought it was.
Oh, yeah.
Mrs.
Yeah. It might have been.
or is Alice there? Whatever.
Oh, I thought Alice was in the middle.
Yeah, I'm Alice.
That comment is direct.
I don't have
Kristin.
a tight beehive do, but whatever.
So
Matthew, you have any hobbies? We never asked you if you had any hobbies. You've been on the show several times. Nice.
I had hobbies once upon a time. I enjoy listening to music. I enjoy gaming. I don't game as much nearly as I should, considering I'm in between working and advocacy, which takes up 99.9% of my day. Listening to music, I found out recently I like grilling.
Grilling is fun.
I've learned that I do like grilling, and I like making steaks taste like they're made with butter.
That's good keto food, you know.
yeah.
I was on keto for a little bit. I definitely
Steaks are
cannot do
good
it
keto.
full time. No.
I'm not doing it anymore, but it worked.
Yeah, I play video games. I play phone games, and I read occasionally, watch movies, and I got nothing. Vaping has become my life. I mean, I live by the motto: eat, sleep, vape, repeat. I mean, that is my hashtag for everything.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go ahead and let you, Alex, finish up the show.
Hang on.
Oh, wait.
Hold
What?
on.
What? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Brian, do you
Go
want to
ahead.
read what you just wrote, sir?
Yeah.
Brian.
I just said I'll match Elliot and I'll match that match. So 100 in.
I don't have that much money. I can't put that up. Fucking, I started it off.
You better open a buttery steak stand on the corner then.
I will buy it.
All right, Alex. We're going to go ahead and let you finish up and let people know what they can do. Anything else that's going on, you can kind of finish up the show for us.
Sure. Oh, well, I mean, thanks to you guys for having us on. This is a blast.
It's been great.
Out with Kristin for a little while outside of, hey, did you post that thing yet?
We need to do this some more, Alex. Do some more shows together.
Yeah.
We need to do
I
more
want to
shows
get
together.
you guys on a Legion show. I'm really working on it.
Sure. Yeah. I'm glad. I didn't expect you to show up, Matt. So nice to see you again. And
He's a regular. He's a regular with us.
I come and go,
Yeah.
I meant to be on earlier, but work completely took over, and I had to do some PT because I'm losing all feeling in my pinky and my ring finger.
Oh.
Yeah, good
He's
times.
our second rock star. The other rock stars above him, so it's kind of cool that they're together right there.
His hair's longer now. I used to have longer hair, although I do have this nice Viking braid going on.
Like
Oh, my
get a
husband
hat.
be jealous.
You should just get a hat and have the hair on it so it looks like it's going all the way down.
Hard no. Hard no.
Most of the time, mine is usually up in a bun or in a ponytail, but I actually put it down today.
All right, Alex,
I
go
work
ahead.
from home. What am I gonna do, right?
We're all
I work from home too, so I got the COVID hair going on all month long. So yeah, I mean, just thanks you guys for having us on. It was a great conversation, and I really do sincerely hope that, new vapors who are coming in through Sample Box and who are following your show and all of your social media, definitely, we need your voices right now more than anything. Well, besides funding is going to be the theme for us for a while too. But join CASAA. There's the link, CASAA.org. I get calls for people that are like, "Where's my application?" And I'm like, "Wrong CASAA."
Wrong CASAA.
But join. Pay attention to the messages we put out. Kristin is going to be, keeping us visible on social media, and she's obviously a very engaged person and engaging person. When you want the long form explanation of things that's actually easy to understand, Kristin is providing that pretty frequently in her personal conversations on Facebook and other social media. But she does that also for us at CASAA. We've built this organization to provide as many resources as we can to people. That's what it's there for. And the more the merrier. And like to your point earlier, bring in your family. Their voices are absolutely vital to this too. Brace for really dark times. If you're new to this, man, I'm sorry that this is going to seem pretty bleak for you. I hope it's not. And I understand that my hope actually means that I hope there's a lot of people out there that get away with breaking the law. And for those people who are, brave enough to get out there and sell these products out of the trunk of a car, thank you. I know that your motivations for doing this are not just to make a quick buck on the street. This is about survival for millions of us. Just remember, there's still 34 million people smoke out there, and in New York, cigarettes are still the most popular and available tobacco product on the market. And that's true everywhere else. So we got a lot of people that are in pretty vulnerable spots right now. And I think we should all be very concerned that they're going to be going back to smoking and putting themselves in an even worse position. So now more than ever, we need everybody's voice. We need everybody pushing in the same direction. And it's all about making sure that people who smoke have access to safer alternatives. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I just add to that just a little bit?
Yeah.
Could I add to that? If you do join, just to let you know what happens when you do sign up with us, if you do a call to action, you do sign up with us. But we don't spam. We're not going to email you a ton of different things. You're going to get calls to action, occasional thank you letters if you're donating, and things like that. But a lot of people say, well, what do I do now? Go to the website under Get Involved, and there's a bunch of stuff under there you can do. You can go to your state page. I created 50 different plus Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. state pages that has advocacy tips, things you can do, what's going on in your state. Our calls to action for your state are there. Contact information, past calls to action, so you can see what's been happening. So that's there's also a general state page that's just got a quick checkbox of different things. And then also go to Facebook. And I believe on there too, if you go to your page, if you go to your state, there's a map, click on the map, your page will open up in the upper corner. It'll have the link to your state's Facebook group. Join your Facebook group, because if you're in Florida, if you're in Georgia, whatever, you should be in that Facebook group, because that's where they're talking about your issues specifically. The We Are CASAA group's great, but it's everything. In Georgia or California or whatever, that stuff is happening, and that's where we try to monitor that to see what's going on. If you hear of something, that's a great place to post. There's moderators. Thank you to my moderators. They're in there too. So after you join, and if you can donate, that'd be great. But also make sure you join those groups and follow your states.
Yeah.
Hey,
Last thing real fast.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because Alex mentioned New York, and I'm seeing Robert Albert on there. I read up a little bit. I live in Pig Cuomo State, so I'll probably be smoking soon. Been smoke-free for 2 years because of vaping. Robert, My brother,
Yeah.
get me on Facebook, Matthew Elliott. I have a list, and this goes for anyone in any state that you cannot get stuff in. Hit me up. I have a list of dedicated people who are down for the cause, who will ship you what you need. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So reach out to me. I got you, brother.
Excellent. All right, guys. Hey, thank you again, everybody, for joining the show. Tom, Brian, Tim, Christian, Alex, and Matthew, our second rock star. All right, guys. Thank you again, everybody. Please follow that link down there, which is correct now. I corrected it. It will take you to CASAA.
Fucking amateur hour.
It is
After the
not
third time.
It is not a Smile King show without a few errors. That's it. All right, guys. Thank you again for your time. We appreciate it. And
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.
look forward to next week when we do our fundraising thing. And that's what I'm going to call it, a fundraiser. That's not a giveaway.
Robert, Grim Elliottini on Twitter. Get at me. GrimElliottini. Get at me. I got you, brother.
All right. You hear him? All right. All right, guys. Thank you again. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
See you next week, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you again. And